Hey everyone, this is going to be a quick overview of my double shotgun alpha bridge build for Division Patch 1.3. I've been having a lot of fun with this in the DZ, especially after the 20% damage increase to other players. Right now, shotguns are really strong in the PS4 meta, at least until the Deadeye set comes out. And this is because there's a lot of high toughness players running around in the DZ. I personally feel that shotguns are the best way to deal with those high toughness players. You know, with the normal SMG AR builds, the damage happens like tiny chunks at a time, albeit very quickly. And what that does is that gives the high toughness players the ability to time their heals to proc their critical save talent, which of course gives them the 40% damage reduction on top of their already pretty big overheal. Now with shotguns, you're actually taking chunks and chunks out of their life, and by doing so, it becomes much harder for them to time their heals to activate their critical save talent. So without further ado, let's go into the build. My DPS is 165k. I've seen it go up to 190, but who the hell knows what's going on there. My toughness is 448k. My toughness is 112k health and a 75% armor cap. And my skill power, as you can see right there, is hovering at around 24k. I am using a Reckless chest piece 229 with a stamina roll. The attributes on it are armor and exotic damage resistance to help the sticky bombs. I know Reckless can be a little dangerous now to use, especially with the new damage update, but I'll go into why I use a Reckless chest piece instead of a Vigorous, which I do have at the end of my build. Moving on to the backpack. My backpack is a 268 Alpha Bridge backpack with a stamina main stat. For the main attribute, you normally want critical hit damage or skill power. I personally would have preferred skill power, but this is the backpack that RNG gave me. The 19% critical hit damage is still very good though, because outside of your first aid, the skill power, all it really does is bump up the damage of your pulse, and that can easily be negated if the other team runs a conceal pulse. Thus, the 19% critical hit damage attribute will always be active, even if the other team uses a conceal. My gloves are a 229 Savage gloves with a firearms roll. The major attributes are the DPS attributes. You want your shotgun damage, your critical hit chance, and critical hit damage. If I was using assault rifles, I would use assault rifle damage on this one. My mask is a 268 Alpha Bridge mask with a firearms roll. For the main attribute, I have a skill power roll on it, which I personally feel is stronger than a stat crit hit chance. Because with the Savage gloves and the pulse, you won't have any problems either reaching the critical hit chance cap at 60% or at least getting very close. My knees are a 268 Alpha Bridge knees with stamina roll. These are just the standard knees rolled for armor to reach the armor cap. This one does have shock resistance on it, which is really nice to have, but doesn't make or break the build. My holster is just a standard triple stat holster with the armor roll on it. I would like the stamina to be higher, but it is what it is. Now moving on to the guns, and that's where all the action is. As you guys know, the Alpha Bridge set lets you use all the talents that you have unlocked on your guns if you have both of the guns of the same weapon type. For my guns, I try to get the talents that increase the total percentage of flat weapon damage to really boost up the damage numbers for each pellet. That being said, my gun of choice is an M870 Express. My weapon has 121k bullet damage, and the talents on it are accurate, which does inflate the DPS number, but it also makes it so that your pellets have a really tight grouping, and that allows for those 1 to 2 shot kills on a player, provided all of them hit the head. Deadly for some critical hit damage. With my pulse, I am just a few ticks under the 60% critical hit chance cap, thus making Deadly a strong talent to have on this shotgun. Lastly, on this gun, I have Unforgiving. This is one of the stats that add a flat weapon damage increase. When using Reckless, especially after the damage patch, I find Unforgiving kicks in a lot more often than it used to. The flat 10% damage is really nice, and when the shit really hits the fan, you have a 24% chance when you are in your last segment. In kind of a PvP high intensity gunfight situation, that 24% can mean a difference between life and death, provided that you do have a shot to fire in your gun. My second gun is another M870, but because it is just used for the talents, it could be any kind of shotgun. I would try to have your offhand shotgun be as low as a gear score as possible to make the re-rolling process and to get the right talents a little less of a nightmare. The talents on my offhand are Brutal to boost the headshot damage, Responsive for the flat 13.5% weapon increase to targets within 10 meters. Most PvP engagements happen in that range anyway. And Competent. I got really lucky with Brutal and Competent already on this gun and just had to re-roll for Responsive. Competent gives another 13.5 weapon damage for 10 seconds, which is huge and easy. 10 seconds is actually a really, really long time. Next, we'll take a look at my skills. First, I'm using First Aid with Booster Shot. The healing isn't amazing because my skill power isn't incredibly high, but the Booster Shot does exactly what this build needs, and what that is it gives a 15% flat damage increase, as well as a 15% damage mitigation to kind of counteract the effects of the Reckless chest piece. I'm also using a Pulse with a tactical scanner. This gives me a nice little tiny boost to damage, as well as a 28% crit hit chance and 57% crit hit damage. And my super is a tactical link super, and I'll explain why I use this link super instead of the security link a little later. For my talents, I use Triage because I usually run with at least one other person. I use Critical Save to get that extra 40% tankiness for 10 seconds when using a heal at low health. And I use Strike Back again for the cooldowns, plus it synergizes well with Unforgiving and Reckless, since you'll be taking a little bit more damage now, both after the patch and plus the Reckless chest piece. Lastly, I do use One is None because I'm using a shotgun, and you pretty much get infinite bullets, provided of course you could hit your headshots. Alright, let's do some math regarding crit hit chance. As you guys know, the cap is 60%. My current right now is 14% right now. Go to my Savage gloves. I do have Savage, so that's another 14% against targets outside of cover for a total of 28 right between these two. Go into my Pulse, that's another 28 right there. 28 plus 28, of course, 56. I'm just under the crit hit chance cap. I think this is fine as it is. In order to reach 60 with the build I have going right now, I would have to go to my mask and re-roll the skill power off my mask to get a 5% crit hit chance on my mask. I could do it on my knees, but I like the armor cap on it. I think if I roll the skill power off, my pulse will get weaker, and I think this will actually put me further away from the crit hit chance cap. Okay, so next we're going to talk about flat weapon damage increases. Now we're not talking about crit hit chance, crit hit damage, nothing like that, just flat weapon damage. The Reckless chest here gives 14% flat weapon damage increase. Go to my guns. Responsive gives a 13.5 flat weapon damage increase, and Competent gives another 13.5 flat weapon damage increase. My Pulse, it does give a weapon damage increase, it doesn't say what percentage, but math and other people have figured out it does around 15%. So in total, without the Unforgiving talent active, I'm able to achieve a 56% increase to my weapon damage. That's 14% from my Reckless, 15 from Booster Shot, 13.5 from Responsive, and 13.5% from Competent. With the first segment missing and Unforgiving, that percentage goes up to 66%, and with the second segment missing, that percentage goes up to 80%. 80% sounds familiar, 80% is huge, and to put it into perspective, 80% is the amount of damage resistance you get from your Survivor Link buff. What this means is that if all your weapon talents are proccing, you're using skills, you're within 10 meters, and you're under your last health segment and you use a booster shot, usually imagine you get booster shot and you get gunned down anyway. When you're on the last segment of your health, you will be doing your weapon damage DPS to the player even if they have their Survivor Link active, because that 80% flat weapon damage increase is pretty much negating the 80% of damage resistance they'll be getting from their super. With the tactical link, you're going to be doing an increase of 106% weapon damage at full health, at 116% weapon damage when the first health segment is missing, and a huge 130% weapon damage when you are in your last segment. Compared to the 80% weapon damage resistance from Survivor Link, I think this build actually makes the tactical link do what it is supposed to do, and what it's supposed to do is punch through the Survivor Link super. So that being said, without further ado, we'll go into some gameplay and I'll show you how the build works.
Manhunt now. That's a for sure.
Crazy. 7 guys behind us. Holy fuck. Oh, wow. Those guys just continue like that. What the fuck just happened? Turned around on the left end of the game and all of them. Fuck. I need help. Medkit, dude. Oh! No medkit? Yeah. No, I didn't have a fuck. I'm trying to figure out how you use 9 medkits so fast. I mean, I had medkits, bro. They were just